Narayana, Narayana, Narayana. So we have come to the end of 3 days of discussion, and I hope of thought also over what has been discussed. In the beginning, we heard such persons as Mr. Arif Mohammad Khan, Mr. Musa Rasa, Mr. Professor Bhatt, Professor Sanjay Paswan, all telling us about how viable a world is which is peaceful. Most of us think, no, it's something which cannot happen, but it can happen. It has happened over there. We have had periods in which there has been less strife, and then we have periods in which there has been more strife. That is the secret of the Chatur Yuga. When there's a Satya Yuga, and then it comes down, becomes a Kali Yuga, and then again becomes Satya Yuga. So this cyclical progress has always been there. We have had difficulties, we have gone beyond the difficulties. So all this is, all these, we have heard all the very, every presentation today which I heard was really enthralling. And it was really very nice to see the various points of view of difficulties which are there, of the difficulties of the teachers, of the difficulties of the young people, of the ways in which, and Dr. Swami has explained so well about the difficulties in that 60% of the cities are by people who are not so fortunate. So they are crowded together and diseases do spread. So it's a miracle that this present affliction has not afflicted more people than what it has. And also we have to keep in mind is that when there are so many of the have-nots who are seeing all around them lives of high consumerism, and they cannot always reach it, then there is a very high potential for unhappiness. There is a very high potential for violence and for forcible social change. So it is necessary that we should change before we are changed. Sathguru always used to say that we have to choose between evolution and revolution. And what are we going to change? Choose, that's what she used to say. We have to choose between evolution and revolution. So for evolution to be our path, that is what has been the tradition of India, that we evolve, that we interpret our circumstances, we adapt our circumstances to the interpretation which is relevant to our times. There are interpretation of Dharma, which was basic dharmas, many of them are not relevant anymore. But the Sankshepa Dharma, which is mentioned by Bhishma, what is harmful to oneself, one should not do to another person. That is relevant to us at all times. So we have to understand that it is when we see the other as a threat to us, we see the other as somebody to be overtaken, we see the other as a competitor, we see the other as somebody who will take away the bread from us, then There's no peace in us. When we see the other person as a part of a shared community, with shared values, with shared ideas, then they are not a threat to us. Then we are able to think of the world as a one unit, instead of thinking of people as friends, enemies, people who are not relevant to us. Ayam nijaha paroveti jadanam lagujeta. These people are mine, those people are not mine. I will look after my people, I will not hurt the other person. And even my people, if it comes between choosing myself and them, then we will choose myself only. Dara Charitranam tu Vasudeva. But the noble-minded people, the persons who are high-minded, who are able to see beyond this idea of me, mine, my family, all these things, we are able to go beyond that. When we are able to understand that, just like how when I am hit, I feel pain. When my family is deprived of something, it's the same thing as what that's happening to the other person. Then we see the world differently. So that is the secret of how we can have sustainable development. To see the world as Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, the family of Vasudha. Vasudha is Bhumi Devi. Vasudha is the earth. Vasudha is the giver of wealth, of all that we have. So we are a family. When we think of us as the other people as connected to us, not rivals to us, but connected to us. That I mentioned earlier about how that little girl, she said, they asked her, why are you from such a strong Shiva Bhakta, keeping the fast during Ramzan? She said, my friend is not eating, so I don't want to eat. Simple, easy. Sense of those barriers have not grown for her at that time. I'm glad to say it hasn't grown now also. But that sense of barriers which are there, we build it up because we want to protect ourselves. So, desire, fear, anger, these things come because our survival is threatened. So when we understand that the giver of all that is Mother Earth, we are all living on Mother Earth. We are drinking her blood. But she's feeding us happily. But if we say that I will eat, but I will not allow somebody else to eat, then she will become a different. She will be a mother, just punishing us. So that is why we see that when the world is over, the earth is overexploited, there is a backlash which is coming. Just like how we saw in Kerala, the soft porous rock was cut and taken for construction. The sand was taken for construction. And all that remained was hard rock. So the rain came, the rain fell on the hard rock. There was no way it could go down. Then there were floods and people died, people disappeared. And then after that, there was a shortage of water. In a country which has got so many months of rainfall, After the floods, there's a shortage of water. Why? Because we abuse nature. Our greed made us exploit the earth in a manner which was beyond the way it should. So we have to live off the earth. We are dependent on the earth. We have to live off the earth. But we don't have to take the life of the earth. We can understand that we are just temporary residents of this earth. We are here for a maximum 100 years. Then after that, somebody else is going to be living. India, an ancient country. I am living in this place. 100 years ago, somebody else would have been living who don't even know. I don't even know who it would have been. And before that, someone else would have been living. Because this is an ancient place which has been there so long. So over 1,000 years, you can imagine how many people have lived in the same place, which I live in and which I say is mine, for which I have documents to prove that it belongs to me. And then afterwards, the final document is only a death certificate. So we must understand that we are holding this earth as trustees. We are holding this earth so that we can give it to the next generation. How we received it, we should improve it and should be given to them in a better condition than what we received it. For that, we must stop thinking of other people as different from us. We have to think of them as one of us. And then alone will there be peace on earth. Sathguru said, when we said, we are so glad, Sathguru, that you are going to speak about peace and harmony. He said, I can speak to you about peace and harmony. I can bless you to have peace and harmony. But for that peace and harmony to remain in your lives, you have to work for it. So we must all work with the grace of God. This is 3 days of the conference have gone very well. We have had wonderful talks and discussions. I request the scholars to write papers and give us. I couldn't, since it was a short notice, I told them, give us a talk and give me the paper later. So I hope that I will receive papers. And these days of talks, these days of thought will always remain in our minds, because the thoughts expressed in these talks were so profound. But it must not only remain in our minds, it must also become part of our lives. And we should practice these ideas which we have learned. Because only then will we be able to have what is, I'm not sure who, somebody expressed, I think it was Dr. Pankaj Jain, he said, Dharma is a very correct word for this. Because Dharayati iti Dharma, which supports us. The traditional definition of Dharma is that which gives us happiness in this world and peace later. So, even if we are atheists and don't believe in being born again, Dharma, practicing Dharma, supporting the world, that will give us happiness in this world and give peace to our descendants. Shri Sathguru Arpanamastu, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu, Narayana, Narayana.